What if America's next megacity isn't a single skyline, but four giants quietly stitching themselves together? In Texas, something massive is forming, and most people don't even realize it yet. When most people think about Texas, they picture individual cities competing for attention. Houston gets labeled the energy capital. Dallas-Fort Worth dominates conversations around logistics and corporate headquarters. Austin grabs headlines for technology and startups. San Antonio holds on to history, military presence, and steady population growth. Each city has its own identity, its own skyline, its own culture. But here's what quietly changed over the last several decades. Those cities stopped growing in isolation. The Texas Triangle is not a marketing slogan. It is a geographic reality formed by Dallas-Fort Worth in the north, Houston in the southeast, and Austin and San Antonio along the central and southern corridor. This region covers less than 1/3 of Texas land area, yet it holds over 70% of the state's population. Even more striking, it produces an even larger share of Texas's economic output. That concentration did not happen by accident. It was not planned by one single authority. It emerged gradually through infrastructure, migration, business strategy, and a pattern of distributed power that started more than a century ago. To understand why the Triangle is starting to behave like one enormous interconnected system instead of four distant metros, you have to rewind to a time when Texas looked nothing like it does today. When Texas joined the United States in 1845, the population was only around 125,000 people. There was no overwhelming urban center pulling everyone in one direction. Unlike states such as Massachusetts or New York, Texas did not have a natural harbor that automatically turned one city into a national powerhouse. There was no early equivalent to New York City that monopolized trade, finance, and migration. Instead, Texas urbanized during the railroad era. Rail lines did not converge into a single coastal metropolis. They spread across the state and strengthened multiple nodes. Dallas and Fort Worth emerged as key rail crossroads. Freight from the Midwest, the Great Plains, and the Southwest passed through the region, turning it into a distribution and finance center even without a major port. Houston followed a different path. Water access shaped Houston's destiny. The construction of the Houston Ship Channel in the early 20th century transformed Houston into a major port connected directly to global shipping routes. That single infrastructure project positioned Houston as a future energy and trade hub. San Antonio developed along older settlement routes and became anchored by military infrastructure. Austin gained importance after becoming the state capital and later strengthened its influence through the University of Texas. By 1900, no Texas city had more than 60,000 residents. Growth existed, but it was balanced. Each metro specialized in different functions. Instead of competing for absolute dominance, these cities developed complementary strengths. That distributed model laid the groundwork for something much bigger later on. Texas did not centralize early, it diversified early. The real transformation began after World War II. Texas embraced automobile infrastructure aggressively. The interstate highway system reshaped how distance functioned inside the state. Interstate 35 connected Dallas to Fort Worth with Austin and San Antonio. Interstate 45 linked Dallas directly to Houston. Interstate 10 created a powerful east-west corridor between Houston and San Antonio and beyond. What once required long, inconvenient travel suddenly became manageable, routine drives. Commuting patterns expanded. Businesses gained flexibility in choosing locations. At the same time, air conditioning made living in the South more comfortable year-round. Between 1940 and 1970, Texas nearly doubled its population. Millions moved in for economic opportunity, affordable land, and expanding industries. Unlike older East Coast cities that developed before the automobile era, Texas metros grew outward. Land was abundant. Zoning regulations were comparatively permissive. Instead of building vertically into dense cores, development stretched horizontally. Suburbs expanded in every direction. Dallas and Fort Worth effectively merged into a massive metroplex by the 1980s. Today, the Dallas-Fort Worth metro area covers roughly 9,300 square miles, larger than the entire state of New Jersey. Houston expanded aggressively outward as well, absorbing surrounding communities into a vast urban footprint. This outward growth had an unintended consequence. It reduced the physical distance between metros. What once felt like isolated cities gradually became points within a much larger regional web. Today, the Texas Triangle contains 5 of the 15 most populated cities in the United States. Houston leads in city proper population. Dallas to Fort Worth leads in metro size. Austin continues to grow as a technology powerhouse. San Antonio steadily expands. Yet none of these cities fully dominates the others. That balance is unusual in American urban history. Instead of concentrating power in one location, Texas spreads influence across multiple metros. Houston remains the energy center. Austin drives innovation through technology and startup ecosystems fueled by the University of Texas and corporate investments. Dallas to Fort Worth anchors logistics, finance, and corporate offices. San Antonio maintains strong military installations and healthcare infrastructure. Large corporations increasingly distribute operations across the triangle rather than placing everything in one city. Tesla moved headquarters to Austin. Energy operations remain deeply tied to Houston. Corporate functions often rely on Dallas-Fort Worth. Oracle chose Austin for its headquarters. These decisions are not random. The cities are within a few hours of each other, connected by major highways and airports. This distributed corporate structure creates daily interaction between metros. Labor markets overlap, supply chains interlock, investment capital flows regionally instead of locally. The triangle may not appear unified from the sky, but economically, it already behaves like a single network. The strongest evidence of integration is not found in downtown skylines. It is found along highways. Interstate 35 between San Antonio and Austin no longer feels like empty countryside. Development stretches almost continuously. Towns like New Braunfels and San Marcos are growing rapidly as people commute in both directions. Suburban housing developments expand outward from both metros, gradually reducing separation. Temple, located between Austin and Dallas-Fort Worth, grew from around 82,799 residents in 2020 to more than 100,000 by 2026. Waco continues steady expansion. Suburban counties around Houston and Dallas rank among the fastest growing in the nation. 8 of the 10 fastest growing cities in the United States are located inside either the Houston or Dallas-Fort Worth metro areas. That growth pushes outward into surrounding regions, creating overlapping development zones. This is corridor urbanization. Instead of one dense megacity swallowing surrounding towns, multiple metros expand simultaneously toward one another. The space between them becomes economically productive. Warehouses, logistics hubs, residential communities, data centers, and retail corridors fill the gaps. At this point in the story, if this breakdown is giving clarity, subscribe so you don't miss the next deep dive into how infrastructure shapes entire regions. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. More than 175,000 people travel daily between the major metros inside the triangle. Interstate 35 and Interstate 45 carry enormous commuter and freight volumes. As integration deepens, congestion increases. This pressure has sparked conversations about high-speed rail. In the early 2000s, Texas Central Railway proposed a 240-mile high-speed line between Houston and Dallas, modeled after Japan's Shinkansen system. The proposed train would reach speeds up to 200 miles per hour and reduce travel time to roughly 90 minutes. Although the project has been described as shovel-ready, construction has not started due to political opposition, land negotiations, and funding complexities. Similar proposals exist between Austin and San Antonio. Whether high-speed rail materializes or not, the underlying trend remains. The triangle already functions as a mega-region economically. Infrastructure debates are responses to integration, not the cause of it. The highways built decades ago laid the foundation. Businesses and residents built the momentum. Traditional megacities concentrate influence in one dense center. The Texas Triangle represents something different. It is multi-core. Houston dominates energy production and global shipping access through the Houston Ship Channel. Dallas-Fort Worth thrives as a logistics powerhouse with multiple international airports and rail connections. Austin attracts tech talent and startup capital. San Antonio anchors military presence and growing healthcare systems. Because no single city absorbs everything, the region benefits from diversification. If energy markets fluctuate, technology growth may continue. If tech hiring slows, logistics and finance can sustain momentum. This distributed resilience may be one of Texas's biggest long-term advantages. Instead of one city carrying the entire state's economic weight, multiple metros share responsibility. Draw a line connecting Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, Austin, and San Antonio, and you link a region of more than 20 million people. That population rivals entire countries. And yet most people outside Texas still think of these as isolated metros. Rapid expansion always creates tension. Interstate 35 has become heavily congested. Housing affordability pressures are rising in Austin and spreading outward to nearby towns. Infrastructure systems face growing demand as millions more residents move in. Water systems, power grids, and transportation corridors must scale. Outward sprawl, which fueled decades of growth, may not remain sustainable indefinitely without redesign. The model that built the triangle relied on cheap land, permissive zoning, and car-dependent infrastructure. The next phase may require more coordination. Will policymakers invest in regional transit systems? Will highway expansion continue to dominate planning? Can the region maintain affordability while supporting millions more residents? These questions do not have simple answers, but they will determine whether the triangle matures into a fully integrated mega region or stalls under its own complexity. If the Austin-San Antonio corridor merges into a unified mega region as projected, the combined population could reach 8.3 million by 2050, roughly equal to Dallas-Fort Worth today. That would create multiple population clusters of similar scale inside one broader system. Imagine a state where several mega-scale urban cores operate within a few hours of each other, connected by highways, potential rail lines, and shared economic networks. That is not theoretical, it is already forming. The triangle does not need a single towering skyline to qualify as America's next mega region. It needs interconnected labor markets, supply chains, and infrastructure. Those elements are already in place. The real uncertainty is whether governance and planning will evolve alongside growth. Texas may be redefining what large-scale urban growth looks like in the 21st century. Instead of one dominant city absorbing all resources, the triangle spreads power across multiple metros. In a country where coastal cities often dominate national conversations, Texas built scale inland. It leveraged railroads, highways, abundant land, and diversified industries. The question now is not whether the Texas Triangle exists. It clearly does. The question is whether the current growth model can scale sustainably for decades more. Will Texas double down on highways and sprawl, or pivot toward integrated regional planning? Will high-speed rail eventually connect Houston and Dallas? Will Austin and San Antonio merge into a continuous economic corridor? These decisions will shape not only Texas, but potentially serve as a blueprint for other fast-growing states. The triangle did not emerge through flashy announcements. It formed gradually through infrastructure and economic alignment. Now the transformation is impossible to ignore. So here's the question that matters most. Does the Texas Triangle evolve into a fully recognized megacity system, or does growth eventually force a new approach to how the region connects and builds? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if you want to explore how other regions are reshaping the American landscape, watch the next video.